Hello again. I'm Ava Death Dolly, and welcome back to my virtual Death Diva channel, where I mostly talk about God and God's rock history, as well as some personal shit now and then, and the trans issues. And I would like to get into some film work issues, as well as I like to cover some strange stuff now and then. Some like cultism, maybe, perhaps, whatever. Sort of suits my fancy, especially when I haven't shot anything. And I haven't shot anything lately because I've been dealing with a little personal drama. Yeah, some personal setbacks and a lot of stress being with the kids, still being out of school for summer and no privacy, as well as a couple of off nights, and including a near-death experience. And that being that this is Obon in the Japanese Buddhist tradition, which I still practice a little bit, out on the side, in addition to my continued devotion to, my dear Valpadea, as well as, now then, of course, I do seek the guidance of Hecate, my patrons, as well as I do make offerings to Akala as well. But that said, Obon, for those who are not familiar with this tradition, is very much like Samhain in October, as of course, is Halloween, or Los Días de los Muertos. Es cuando el mundo de los vivos y de los muertos están cerca. In other words, the land of the dead and that of the living come very close to each other. And so, usually in Obon, you will either be visited, or you may be thinking of, or by chance dream of, those you missed, and those you lost, and those who cared about you. And so, there's a lot of tales to be told about that, but I won't get too deep into it. But being my most recent near-death experience, something rather bizarre happened, very troubling. And there's a lot of aspects that I really don't want to cover right now because they are very disturbing. But one story, one part of it, I want to share because it is so strange and troubling. You see, I had a very similar experience in 2003. But that wasn't a near-death experience. That was just a dream, a very strange, unusual dream. And something happened that I had a lot of hard time accepting. Accepting as fact that I indeed, my spirit, came in contact with something very unexpected. You see, that morning of February 1st, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia was on its return flight. It was deorbiting somewhere over the Pacific Ocean and was on a flight path to Florida, to the Kennedy Space Center, to do a re-entry into insertion into the Earth's atmosphere and eventually land like a 747. But in order to do that, of course, it's a long re-entry, and there's that period where they go out of communication, go through the atmosphere, and things can go wrong. And something went very wrong that morning. But being that shuttle flights at that time were almost rather routine, I'd worked a long week that week. I was still pursuing my bachelor's degree in computer network technology at the time, and I had a full-time job, and I was pushing the brink of absolute exhaustion. I was very tired. I wasn't involved in drugs at that point. I kind of took a break because I needed my brain to function in order to understand the work I was getting myself involved with at the time. So I was just very tired. well, drinking the night before, but nothing serious. And when these space shuttles used to do their descent over the Pacific Ocean to fly to Florida, when they re-entered the atmosphere, you'd hear a loud sonic boom, and these things were really loud. I mean, you hear. I grew up next to Point Mugu in Camarillo, and we used to hear F-4 and F-14 fighters break the sound barrier all the time, and you something else in my nose, But when this shuttle would come over, it would be loud bang. So much so it'd shake the ground. But being this is earthquake country, I tended to sleep through them, because anything up below a 3.1, I'd sleep through them. Remember, I survived. I was here for Northridge, which was the scariest of them all, because that was like over 9.1. Yes, you can look this up in the Wikipedia, and everybody else will tell you, it was actually 6.9. No. You see, I know something you don't know. You see, I happen to run into some rather interesting pagan circles that involve some rather primitive fucking people. And I'm calling some people that were very, very well known in the scientific community, whom would speak out often on seismic events. Well, let's just put it that way. I'm not going to say who, but they revealed to us, and one night they were just fucking angry that they were ordered by the governor to downgrade it because of the insurance companies and the insurance lobbies. They might all go bankrupt if they file all these goddamn claims, because the seismic event was well over 9.0. Trust me, if you'd been here, you would have known. That's like, wait a minute, that was no 6.7 or 6.9. Bullshit. That was pretty fucking scary. And there were multiple aftershocks that just rattled your fucking nerves. And this went on for days. So, something like a sonic boom, slip right through it, no big deal. So I ain't hear no sonic boom. I was sleeping late. I had a long weekend. I was fucking tired, But sleeping in late, I had a very strange dream. I found myself in this place. There's really no way to describe it. It was just dark. There was a floor. Couldn't really see it. It's like there was 2 feet of ground fog. Looking behind me, I could see there was like the frame, like a lit frame of a doorway. And there was kind of like one of those old school, windows that you'd have inside an office that you can't really see through it because it's kind of beveled and, it's kind of designed that way. So you can tell there's people inside or there's something inside, there's a light in there, but you can't really see it because it's too obscure. Something like that. That's behind me. And there will be another one on the other side, going the opposite direction. And I'm like, what the fuck is this place? Didn't understand it. But I'm walking towards one of the doors. I'm going away from one direction, and I'm walking towards the other. And I don't quite know what this is. And I don't quite know what's going on, but I'm walking towards it, and I notice there's somebody walking towards me. And within a moment, they were just coming right up to me, passing me by. I'm looking, and I say, wait a minute. I know this person. Now, you can accept what I'm about to tell you as bullshit, hallucination, just a dream. Now, mind you, I was asleep that morning, so I didn't know what was about to happen or what was happening. But there she was. Kalpana Chawla, mission specialist. Space Shuttle, Columbia. She was walking up to me and passing me in her flight suit, her orange flight suit. And I knew because my father was involved with the Space Shuttle main engine, working for the Air Force at that time. So I was very aware of who was on that flight. And knew a lot about the space shuttle program because, again, my father was involved with it. As long, also involved with part of the international ISS, as they called it at the time, the International Space Station. And so I'm almost in shock because I recognize, why am I dreaming of you? Or am I dreaming? This didn't feel like a normal dream. But there she was walking past me, and I noticed there's these black patches, kind of like dirt, and then I recognized that it's soot and it smelled like something burned. And I noticed her hair was all fucked up and singed. She had a flight suit, but helmet nowhere to be seen. Don't know. I'm walking past her and I'm looking, and I never forget the look in her eyes. This wide-eyed look like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where I'm going, and she's mumbling something, and I can't make out what the fuck she's saying. She's just incoherent, and she's passing by, and I'm trying to get her attention. I'm like, I know you. Wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, I lose sight of her, and I end up waking up. Wake up and I go, what the fuck was that? Weird fucking dream, right? You know? I was so troubled by that. Reached over, grabbed my phone. Called my best friend at the time. That was my friend Tamlin. He lived about a mile away from me here in Hollywood. This was, for those of you who don't know or may know, or that sounds familiar, that was the keyboard player. Well, no, we were still very close friends at this time. And called him up, and I said, I just had this really weird, fucked up dream that I ran into an astronaut. And the minute I said astronaut, he says, just stop right there. I go, whoa, what's going on? You need to turn on the television. I go, what do you mean? No. I said, Tamlin, the last time you told me to turn on the television, I was watching a plane hit the World Trade Center. What are you, just turn it on now. So, reached across my bed. I had a TV right in my base of my feet. Turned it on, and there it was. There's a Columbia is breaking apart over Texas. And they're showing the flight path, and it passed right over us. And I was mortified. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't know. The crew died as they flew over us. Or perhaps already dead. I don't know. But I didn't see the whole crew. I only saw one person, and I don't know, quite understand the whys or the wheres of it. I called up my high priestess, Lily, definitely true, circle one, and I called her up and I told her what happened, and she told me, I'm afraid I think you really did see her. I said, and at the time I didn't know her name, I just recognized, I heard about this crew, I knew about the crew, and I remember seeing that, oh, check this out, there's an Indian astronaut, you know, she seems really nice, cool. But I ran into her, clear as day, in this dark place. And I remember the haunting look in her eyes. She just was very confused, did not understand what was going on. I thought that was spooky as fuck, and she didn't know. And I tried to say something to her, and she didn't. She was still mumbling and, fixated on walking in the opposite direction of me. Oh, God, forgive me for a moment. That's not sticking in her, but well, it stuck in my head, and I hadn't told very many people. I think I've maybe told less than half a dozen people, because, people naturally assume, well, you're hallucinating. Oh, you got fantastic dreams, you got red little imagination, whatever, but I didn't know she was dead. How the fuck was I supposed to know? I had overslept. I wasn't really paying attention. I was too fucking busy, but there she was. Before I knew she was dead, I encountered her. She's going towards the light. At least I would hope so. Anyway, decided not to talk about it because, again, people take my reputation and they question my credibility. So I just don't want to talk about it. Like many other things that have happened, strange, bizarre things that I've been witness to. Everything from extraterrestrial encounters to running into the dead and what have you. I have seen some very strange fucking things in this lifetime. I had crossed over once in 1990 or 89, I'm not sure now. I'd say no, 1990. I'd crossed over once and I saw that bright tunnel of light people are supposed to go through, and maybe your families might be there to greet you, let people love you. Well, I crossed over again. Circumstances I can't believe I go into. But tunnel light was there. What was there to greet me was the angel of death. Now, there isn't just one angel of death, there's plenty of them. And they change, that seems like it's a lottery or some shit, I don't know. Last time. The last time, bright light had appeared, this cobblestone street compared out of nowhere, and I'm hearing strumming of a guitar. I see a man dressed in 14th century gear with a lute, and a lute doesn't make a guitar sound. It's a very different sound. If you're a musician, you'd know that. It doesn't make the same sound. And that was David Bowie, and I said, oh shit. It's about time Paul Lanyon had passed away in England. I said, are you here for what I think you are here for? That's what I asked him. And Bowie turns to me and says in a very loud voice, this is not your time. Next thing you know, I woke up, whoa, shit. Okay, so, that was the time I was contemplating suicide again. I was also very ill at the time. So, this time, this angel of death, don't even recall what they look like. But I argued because I didn't want to leave my wife. I don't want to leave my kids. Not now, at least. I know at that point I won't have a say in the matter. But I argued with this until I was begging. Well, not begging, but I was more or less being demanding. Arguing my point that I still have work to do. Lots of work to do. And I need more time. And they told me, you are on borrowed time. And I said, I know. And they left. They left me there. Then someone else showed up. This is the part I fucking hate. Now, I've heard of other people talk about when they die. Now, one of two things happen. Only one of two things happen. You're either going to be greeted by, you're going to either see that tunnel of light, or you're going to see this next thing that happens. And if you're like, you believe in Christianity, or you're deeply religious, this is the part that will scare the fuck out of you. But because I don't, it didn't scare me. In fact, to my shock and disappointment, I'd run into these people before when I tried to open a conduit, but I won't get into that. There's some beings, we call them interdimensionals. They seem to travel between interdimensions, and they seem to appear through matter. Yes, grays can do that too, but we don't call them interdimensionals. They're just grays. Fucking mindless, evil automatons whose masters who created them died a long time ago, and they've been at it for so long they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But these motherfuckers Poses being light, and I suspected they're not who they pretend to be. I said, you didn't cut the shit. Tell them why you're here, and then all the bright lights turned off, and they revealed who they look like. And I saw something, people describing they're on their way to hell, and they're scared shitless because they don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what is this. This is large beings. I'm about 7 feet tall. Now what is floor-length capes? Humanoid. They just turned off. One minute they look like solid humanoid beings of light, and the next minute they turn the lights off. And we're seeing what's behind the mask. And what's behind the mask, wow. Being that I wasn't afraid, I was very annoyed. Because I've heard of these people before, and here I'm staring at them, and they're planning to kidnap my soul and take it somewhere, and I have no idea where. But I know where it wasn't going. Because again, I wasn't afraid. In part because I don't believe in that idea, in that religion, nor that myth. And I question many things, being an ancient astronaut theorist and understanding, my understanding of occultism and who the gods really are. But we won't go too deep into that. But I just told them, if this is what you guys really look like behind the mask, I have to say, I am greatly disappointed. I got under their skin, and I just annoyed the shit out of them, and they're basically like kind of arguing with them. I was aware that my wife was fighting for me, and he got up and left. I'm like, oh, jeez, this one's gonna fight us. See, if you give it to fear, they'll take you. Now, I've heard the story, so reptilian species, they want to take human souls to some base they have on the moon, supposedly, and they consume our souls as nourishment. I've heard this rumor or conspiracy theory before. These beings were more mechanical, as I was, to my disappointment. Very mechanical. In fact, they didn't have human heads. They had what looked like a swivel and a small ball, black ball with little tiny lights emitting from them. But they reacted when I kind of taunted them. And I said, I'm not going with you. Fuck you. I don't know who you are. Until you tell me where you want to take me, I'm not going willingly. So they said, oh, okay. They didn't say okay. They just kind of looked at me strange. Decided, we better walk away from this one. So I left me alone. And I found myself in that dark place, and I go, and this is very fucking familiar to me. I'm in the dark place, and I'm noticing again, I remembered this place. It's a dark place. You don't see any walls, nothing. You see the ground fog. That's what I knew. I had a feeling I knew where I was, and didn't see the doorway I was headed towards, but I was walking in a direction again. I was walking towards the door. I figured, this is going to get me back home. This is going to get me back to my wife. And that's when a pair of hands just grabs me. Just fucking grabs me, and she's right in my fucking face. And then to my horror, Kalpana was holding me. And she's still in her flight suit. And the horror of the whole idea that in that place, time doesn't exist. It's been 22 years since that happened. 22 fucking years. I have grown older. 22 years have gone by. But to her, it just happened. She still doesn't know. She grabs me and asks me, looks me deep in the eye, just literally grabs me and says, "Where are you going?" I was in shock. I'm like, and I start to just become very emotional because as she held me, she feels frightened, alone. And I was like, oh my God, she doesn't know. She's still here. I thought she would have walked into the light. No, she hadn't. She's still there. I was just like, oh my God, this is fucking sad. And somehow, for some reason, I can't. I'm trying to tell her, you gotta go to the light, you gotta go to the light, you've gotta walk towards. And then she let go and walked away in the darkness, and I didn't see her again. She didn't go to the door. I don't know where she went. But wherever that place is, she's still there. And that's sad. I came out through it. My wife told me I was dead for a moment. She'd been trying to revive me. She'd been arguing with spirits. I think she told me I had clued her in that there were interdimensionals in our midst and they were trying to take me. She's basically telling me to fuck off and invoking our deities, what have you, to help, lend assistance. She fought hard, and I must say of my dear wife, my one apprentice that hasn't rebelled on me, you know. She did good. She brought me back. But I shared her the story because I had told her the story of Kalpana and Chala, what happened to me. I told her the story years ago. She thought it was a fantastic, yet sad and disturbing story, and who knows if it was real or just a dream. But here we were. All these years later, I encounter her again in that strange place. I don't know where it leads. It's a doorway between worlds, a doorway between life and death. And when I think about it, I feel a sense of great sadness. She seemed like a nice person. I watched that movie about the Mexican-American astronaut who was mentored by her, and I'm like, the whole time I just kept going, oh my God, I met this woman. Never in real life, but I met her in a place, and the personality that leapt off that screen was identical to the one I met. And so, I mean, I was told by quite a few people, says, I think you really did run into her. I mean, it would make sense. They passed over California, Southern California for that matter, about the time when they died. They crossed over, it happened so suddenly they didn't know what happened. Where the rest of the crew is, I have no idea. I would assume they had passed on, had gone to where they're supposed to go. Either to be with their loved ones, into the tunnel, to the great beyond, or perhaps reincarnated, or who knows. But that poor lady, she's in some indescribable place and doesn't know where to go. And I at least tried to reason with her. Now, if you know her and maybe you even relate to her, I'm sorry if this offends you, but this is my story. I'm not making this up, not at all. But it is such a very profound story that I felt I wanted to share it, being this so long, and talk up tales of the dead. Because we know she's gone. I mean, she's physically gone. I mean, the crew died shortly after the shuttle program was canceled. I mean, they had scheduled it to cancel because it was too dangerous, too costly. I mean, this was outdated technology by the 2000s. I mean, they designed these damn things. I mean, they came up with the idea in the 1960s and started, planning and constructing these things in the 1970s. So this was pretty old technology. I mean, technology has grown by leaps and bounds since that time. I look at my father you know, when Columbia was first rolled out for that first launch, you know, with Robert Crippen, you know, back in 1980. You know, look at the instrument panel, a little analog, you know, it's almost laughable, you know, because the last photos, of course, they replaced all that, particularly the avionics and, you know, nav gear. It was, you know, it's all digital, you know, by that time. But originally, this whole thing was analog, you know. And if you've ever been to the National Space Museum, looked at the instrument panel of the, you know, the Apollo service module or capsule. It was like, how the fuck did they get to the moon on that shit? You gotta wonder about it. To think that the computing power that they used to do that was under 5 megs. You know, you're like, oh, and they had to do complete memory dumps, and if they fucked it up, well, they're gonna die in space. Scary shit. You're gonna pay me to do that. You know, go up there with them if you offer me. Hey, you wanna go to the moon? Fuck that shit. But the catch is, you gotta go on a computer with only 5 megs of information and storage capacity. 5 megs? Are you fucking out of your mind? My cell phone holds like 51 gigs. Jesus Christ, no. Fuck that shit. No, those guys were braver than you truly realize. And so were the women. Died in Challenger. Yeah, I watched that one too. That was sad. But this one really hit me. It hit me because, again, I didn't expect it. I barely knew of this woman's existence. And I didn't know that the Columbia had broken apart until Tamlin told me to turn on the television, turn on ABC, and there was Peter Jennings out there telling us the sad tale. People reporting from Texas showing their video cam footage. What a heartbreaking morning that was. Well, you can take me at my word, or you can take this with a grain of salt. It's up to you. I frankly don't care if you think I'm full of shit. But as I say with my other videos, these are my stories. These are my experiences. I lived this. I endured this. You didn't. You know? I'm just public sharing because it's just so goddamn weird. It's sad. And, you know, I'd like to make some more content. It's just with my kids right now and things are going. It's been kind of hard because I have to wait till very late so I can get neighbors to fucking cooperate and the kids to cooperate, and I'd be so goddamn tired looking by the time I can shoot these goddamn things. I mean, it's kind of late. It's so late, it's actually kind of cold. That's why I'm wearing my little Chanel jacket here, you know? Well, now and then I'll share some of these strange stories of things that happened in addition to what I've been covering this whole time, you know, music history, you know, here at the underground scene in LA. And I promise I'm going to be talking about my film work because we went back to the Screen Actors Guild today and started the ball rolling to get me active one more time. So we'll be talking about that soon. Until that time, light a candle for those hungry and put out a little food and drink for those hungry ghosts. Before August 1st runs around, you know, I might visit you. And for those who are still left alive in your midst that you care about, please be good to them. Be good to each other, because life is too short. And just take care of each other. I know it's a cruel world, and there's a lot of bad going on right now, but I really emphasize that whole thing about being good to each other. Because we all have to answer for what we've done in the end. And trust me, those who are committing all this shit, these bad things are happening. Yeah. I take a little comfort in knowing that those scary looking beings, they're probably gonna run into them. And that's gonna scare the fuck out of them. And for the rest of you, may your journey take you to a light, a beautiful one. Take care, everyone.